Hi everybody, I'm Greg Fishel and welcome to bonus weather video number 2 for this week. Actually, I think number 1 was simply some slides that I put together earlier in the week because I was traveling. And the travel took me to Boone, North Carolina, more specifically to Appalachian State University, where the Carolina Meat Conference took place. And when I first heard about this and was invited to speak, I didn't know a darn thing about it. And I just thought, okay, I'll go there and talk about the climate issue and I'll meet a few people and say hi and then leave. And boy, was I wrong about all of that. I learned a heck of a lot. And I want to caution all of you is that when I share this information over the coming minutes, you are talking or you're getting this information from a true novice, okay? And so if there are any inaccuracies in this presentation, I certainly apologize for that because this is a learning process for me, as it probably will be for many of you. So this is my best effort based on the very limited amount of knowledge that I acquired earlier this week. So I gave a keynote address about challenging our thinking on climate change, my evolving perspective. But I don't want to talk about that now. I want to talk about what I learned at the conference. So let's go on ahead and take a look at this here. And it turns out that this meat conference was put on by a group called North Carolina Choices. And they believe in supporting regional economics, preserving agricultural knowledge and trade, and building stronger and more regenerative food systems. Now, North Carolina Choices, the meat conference that they put on, is a nationally recognized event, and it's specifically focused on bringing together every part of the meat supply chain. For more than a decade, this conference has brought together farmers, chefs, and industry leaders for 2 days of unparalleled networking. I mean, there was a ton of people at this thing, hands-on training and technical and business assistance. So this is quite a very, very large event. Now, these two people, and these weren't the only two, but these were two of the ones that I work with directly, Sarah Blackland and Kara Kroger. And Sarah Blackland is the director, the program director for North Carolina Choices, and Kara was the event director, basically the person that made sure that this 2-day event went off without a hitch, and indeed it did. Now, North Carolina Choices, what is that? Well, it's an initiative of the Center for Environmental Farming Systems, CEFS. You knew there had to be an acronym, right? In collaboration with the North Carolina Cooperative Extension, and this promotes sustainable food systems throughout the advancement of the local, niche, and pasture-based meat supply chain in North Carolina. North Carolina Choices provides information, technical assistance, educational programming, and networking opportunities for farmers, extension agents, meat processors, buyers, distributors, and consumers. So an awful lot of people benefit from this organization. Now, one of the things they talked about was regenerative agriculture. And this is a set of farming practices that actually increase the biodiversity in soil organic matter. Current practices that are being used across much of the world are actually destroying biodiversity. And so regenerative agriculture is actually a way or an opportunity to reverse this trend. Now, I'm going to talk about 2 examples here. One is called no-till farming, and this is my poor man's artist's attempt at showing soil and also some living things that are rooted in that soil. And so what happens here is that the soil is full of organisms, which are very, very helpful to plants that are trying to grow. Now, some of those organisms convert soil nitrogen into a plant usable form, and then some bring necessary water to plants, and others aerate and loosen the soil. So the organisms are multifaceted in terms of how they provide benefits. Now, when the soil is turned over by a machine, most of those organisms are actually killed. And so what happens is that the plants must then rely on chemical fertilizers, which then leach into the water, and that obviously is not something that we want to see happen. So what are the solutions? Well, you plant cover crops whose roots actually break up the soil. You let worms aerate the soil and bring down nutrients. And you keep the soil covered with organic mulch, which will break down over time, adding even more organic matter to the soil. And then there's something called regenerative grazing. And again, my poor man's attempt at showing some cattle there. So the grass grows slowly at first, then that rate of growth accelerates and then it slows down again. Well, during the rapid growth process is when it accrues the most biomass the most efficiently. However, if it gets eaten before it gets to that point, then its growth will never speed up. And so this leads to overgrazing, which then leads to soil erosion, drought, and desertification, which again are not things that are very optimal. But if the animals are kept in a tightly packed herd, then the grass has a chance to grow before it is eaten. But all that biomass in the grass is carbon that comes from the air. So it's actually sequestering carbon from the air down into the ground. But not all of the grass gets eaten. Some gets, pardon my French, pooped on and trampled, and that creates perfect conditions for new topsoil to be built. And so that's actually an advantageous thing, and it can happen very, very quickly. Now, this is the famous carbon dioxide record at the Mauna Loa Observatory on the Big Island of Hawaii. And even though the long-term trend is decidedly up, do you notice how the levels actually go up and down and up and down and up and down? It sort of looks like an accordion there. Well, the reason for that is the fact that carbon levels decrease during the warm season due to photosynthesis. And so photosynthesis is actually aiding in the sequestering of carbon from the air into the ground. And then when the cold season comes along, then photosynthesis is greatly reduced and the carbon levels go back up. And so this is a seasonal cycle that we see every year where the carbon levels go up and down, but again, the long-term trend is decidedly upward. So how does this help our climate? Well, there's my soil with the grassy cover, and then you have carbon dioxide molecules in the atmosphere, which we have added to through industrialization, and the process of this regenerative agriculture actually sequesters those carbon dioxide molecules into the ground, thus reducing the CO2 levels in the atmosphere. Now, I have heard varying opinions on exactly how efficient this process is. There's no question that it's helpful, but whether or not it can single-handedly reverse the overall terms of the climate warming, that seems to be open to some debate. But there is no question at all that this process is very, very helpful, and even the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, has a whole chapter on land degradation and how the reversal of this trend can actually benefit in terms of reducing the carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere. So it's something that they are very cognizant of, and certainly something that this conference was very cognizant of and talked about a lot over that 2-day period. Again, I am a novice. If there's anything that I said that was incorrect, I will be constantly trying to learn and be more accurate in my presentation here. But this was fascinating to me. It was something I knew absolutely nothing about, and I wanted to share it with you at least as an introductory process, and then we can all learn together from this point forward. All right, folks, that is bonus weather video number 2 for this week. Hope you found that as interesting as I did. The next one will be coming up on Friday, and the next daily weather update, of course, coming up tomorrow as we finish out the work week. So you all take care, folks, and we'll talk to you again in about 24 hours, maybe less. Take care.